Hello guys, and welcome to another book talk video. Today I have 6 books that I've read to talk to you guys about, and I'm very excited. If you guys have never seen one of these videos before, here's how we set it up. Basically, first things first. 1, you can add me on Goodreads. Here's my profile. It's just my name, Hannah Zages. And I also will have my book of the month referral down below. With that being said, I pulled Goodreads up so I could pull up what I rated these bad boys. But I will give you like my quick star rating at the beginning, and then I'll have timestamps down below, and have like the little sections if you're like scrolling through the video to bring you to the different books so that you can see them. But so I'm going to do the quick star rating, and then if you scroll, you can go to which book you want the in-depth review with spoilers. So if you don't want spoilers, then you can click off after the short review. But I'm going to go in the order in which I read these, which started out with The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith. And I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. Next was The Perfect Son by Lauren North. I also gave it 4 stars. We had The Obsession by Jessie Q. Jessie Q. I gave that 3 stars. Then we had The Carrot Cake Murder by Joanne Fluke. I also gave that 3 stars. We had The Princess Diaries by Carrie Fisher, which I gave 4 stars. And finally, we had Forever Wild, my novella, by K.A. Tucker. Those are the books we're going to be talking about, and so those are the quick reviews. And next, what we're going to get into will contain spoilers, just FYI. Okay, first we'll be talking about The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith. So this book is about a lot of sensitive topics, so trigger warnings up the wazoo for this book. But it is about a girl named Eden who's kind of like a goody two-shoes, like nerdy type of girl. And then her brother's best friend, who's basically like another brother to her, sneaks into her room and assaults her. And she doesn't tell anybody. He threatens her to like not tell anybody, like, you know, what people do to victims. And this is when she's going into being a freshman, and this book is separated into 4 sections of like it happening, and then she kind of, how it affected her. She became kind of like she started using drugs and sleeping around, and like it ruined a lot of her friendships with like her peers and her friends, and hurt a lot of people because she was hurting, and you know, hurt people. And she just didn't feel like she could talk about it. And she dates this guy, and he like wants to like be in a relationship with her, and she's like no, mainly because, you know, she's hurting and doesn't want to let anybody in, doesn't want to tell anybody the truth. And then as time goes on, she eventually does confide in him. I forget his name, but his name is Josh, I believe. He and her had broken up, and then years later she calls him randomly. He's in a whole new relationship, blah blah blah. She had lied to him about her age, and it was this whole thing. And he's like, you don't sound okay, like you sound like you're gonna do something to hurt yourself. So he goes, and she basically tells him what happens, and he's like, why haven't you told anybody? And she's like, nobody's gonna believe me. And then it comes out that the family friend, the brother's best friend, assaulted his girlfriend, and his girlfriend was filing charges, and everybody's like, oh, she's lying, he would never do that, ... And the police start questioning her, and she's just like, yeah, like, I don't know, doesn't want to tell the police. And the police kind of get her alone, and the police can just tell by her demeanor that something happened. And so eventually she does tell her brother what happened, and like she's always been kind of like the rebellious bad one, and her brother, like ever since this happened, and her brother's like the goody two-shoes. They get in the car, and she pulls out a cigarette, and he was like, oh, let me have one. So they kind of bond, and then she's just like, at the end, she was like, will you be there with me when I tell them, like her parents? And he was like, yeah, I'll be right there with you. And it was like very sweet. It's like giving me chills to think about. But this book was really, really good if you're okay with those kinds of topics. Then I highly recommend. And the next book was The Perfect Son by Lauren North. This was a thriller, and this book was a wild ride. So Basically, it's about this woman named Tess, and she wakes up in the hospital, and it's this day after her son's birthday, and she only knows, there's like a, what does it say on here? I'm pretty sure it's like she only knows 3 things. Yeah, her husband died 3 months ago. She's been dabbed, and her son is missing. So this flip-flops between the present of her being interviewed by a psychologist or a psychiatrist, one of the two, and the past. And so essentially her husband died in a plane accident, and leaving her widowed with their young son in a town where she doesn't have any friends, and she's having a really hard time coping. She meets with like this grief therapist type of lady who has lost a child, and they start bonding, and she what's her name, the lady, Shelly is like really looking after her. Ian is her brother-in-law who never really liked her, and he's like kind of on her because her husband owed him like $100,000, and it's like this whole thing that she's like, did I really know him? And the whole time, whenever it flips to her being interviewed, she's like, but where's Jamie? Like, where's my son? You have to be looking for him. Why aren't you finding him? What's going on? Dot, 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 dot. And the whole time you're trying to figure out like who done did it. And I was nowhere near the truth. I thought that she had like a psychotic break and killed her own son, and then like her Shelly, the therapist, or the grief counselor, or her brother-in-law Ian like stabbed her in retaliation or tried to stop her. But really throughout it you learn that Tess is having a psychotic break. And what happened was they're trying to get her to like in the therapy, they're trying to get her to come to reality on her own, but she's just not getting there. And eventually they have to tell her that, like, look at your husband's like flight information. There was 2 seats on that flight. Who was with him? And she's like, nobody. Like, his work was gonna go with him, but then like it got canceled and he went by himself anyway. And they're like, no, who is the ticket for? Look closer. And the truth is that her son also died in the plane accident. He was with his dad, and they both died, and she's having a psychotic break and is kind of hallucinating and seeing him, and she's refusing to take psych medicine, and it's just like a really heartbreaking story, but it was really, really good. Next, we had The Obsession. This read very YA. It looks very YA, but it wasn't bad. It's about a girl named Delilah, and this guy, Logan, is essentially stalking her, and he's making himself very present in her life, and they do end up going on a actual like date. Like, he asks her on a date, she says yes, and then at the end of the day, one date, he says, I love you, and she's like, yeah, no, like, I'm good, we're done here, we're not doing this again. And what you had found out earlier is that Delilah's dad had died, and she lives with her mom and her mom's boyfriend, who is physically and verbally abusive to both her and her mother. And one day her mom was out and Delilah was home with her stepdad, and he's like ordering her to like go make him lunch, and she brings it out to him, and he's working underneath his car. She kicks the jack of the car because he's like making her mad, and it falls on him and kills him. And this stalker, Logan, had put cameras up all outside her house, so he has it on video. And so when she says she's not going to go on a date with him again, he plays the video and is like, no, you're going on a date with me. And so he's pretty much blackmailing her to date him, and like he's applying to the same college that she's going to, this, that, and the other thing. And she kind of like, in a twist of events, she like sneaks onto his computers trying to find the document, but instead changes his entire college admissions essay to be like a copy and paste plagiarized essay to make sure he doesn't get into the college. And then she basically kills him to get away. And it was like fine. I wasn't like sucked in, so I couldn't really give it a 4. It's probably like a 3.5, but that was that. Next we have Carrot Cake Murder by Joanne Fluke. This is a cozy mystery, and I just don't think cozies are for me. I gave this a 3 out of 5. It was just fine. I do enjoy that there are recipes in it. I like that the main character's name is Hannah. You know, kind of cute. But it's just kind of like meh. It's about one of the people in town's Uncle Gus, who has, or one of the people in the neighborhood's brother Gus, whoever refers to as Uncle Gus, shows up after 25 years of like just being kind of, he just like up and left one night, and he came back, and then all of a sudden he ends up murdered and they're trying to figure out who did it. And it was just kind of corny. Nothing really more for me to say. It was just like fine. Like I didn't really care to find. I had guessed who it was super early on. And it was just like fine. I will not be picking up any more books by her. I do have another one over here. You guys can't see it, but it's called The Plum Pudding Murder. But again, it was fine. Next I had The Princess Diaries by Carrie Fisher. I gave this one a 4 out of 5. I don't think that it's like morally okay for me to give a autobiography less than a 4, because if somebody's willing to share their life with me, I have to give them credit for it. This book was pretty good. It was about specifically Carrie Fisher being cast as Princess Leia and her time on making the first Star Wars film, and how it was a super low budget film. Nobody thought it was going to be successful. There's this one line in it. I gotta see if I can find it, because it was like actually, somebody put it as the beginning of their review, but like it's actually like so true. There's a line from the book that says, I had never been Princess Leia before, and now I would be her forever. I would never not be Princess Leia. And I had no idea how profoundly true that was and how long forever was. So it's basically about her kind of like coming to terms with the fact that she will now forever be Princess Leia with a stupid hairdo, and how they just kept trying to make her skinnier and skinnier for the role, and it kind of like messed with her mental health. And she kept a lot of diaries. It was about her. She talks a lot about her affair with Harrison. There's a lot of the book is about that, and then the whole middle is like her actual diary that she kept while she was filming the first movie. And it was quite interesting. She's so funny and sassy, and this is like part of it kind of reminded me of like Jeanette McCurdy's book when she was talking about how like she hates that people don't, when they approach her, they just call her Sam. Like she's like, that's not my name, that's not who I am, it's a character I play. And Carrie Fisher kind of went through the same thing. She's like, I am not Princess Leia, I am Carrie. And so it was like a whole thing. It was also funny that she when she auditioned for Leia, she also was auditioning for Carrie in the horror movie Carrie. And she was like, in part of it, she's like, it would have been so funny if I got cast as that, the movie Carrie, played by Carrie. But yeah, it was pretty interesting. I enjoyed it. I have a couple of, I think I have a couple of her other autobiographies on my Amazon wish list. Wouldn't mind reading them. Then finally I have Forever Wild by K.A. Tucker, a novella. I do have the other 2 books in this trilogy. There's The Simple Wild down here, and then Wild at Heart is up here. They're all very good. All of them are a 4 to me. I don't love the love interest, Jonah. He's kind of controlling, but this one is about Jonah's family and Calla's family are both coming to visit them for Christmas. And they have kind of like a last minute wedding because his mom's health, Jonah's parents live in, I think, like Norway or something to that effect. And she can't be like traveling back and forth, so they have like throw a little wedding. And there's a lot about Roy, the grumpy neighbor, who I just adore, and like his relationship with Calla and how he's repairing his relationship with his daughter. And Calla's like, you need to give her a chance, like she might not hate you as much as you think, like had I not gave my dad a chance at the end of his life, and so on and so forth. But it was very sweet, very good. Obviously very short. It's only a novella. I read it in like 1.5 sittings. It was fantastic. There's one more book in the series. It's about Marie, the vet, and it is called, it doesn't have the title in here. This came out first, but I do need to get that book as well. Andrea's like, I have it, you can borrow mine. I'm like, I already have the other 3 books in the series, so I feel like I have to have the others. And now we will put these on the shelves in their respective colors. And that's everything. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you did not, then well, give it a thumbs down, because either way you're helping out my channel. Comment down below, subscribe if you have not already, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.